Hello and welcome to the Computer Basics 2. In this section we'll be going over file management and organizing of files. This is actually very important because in order to do backups and to actually find your files later on, you will need to put them in some kind of organizing them somehow. And doing this, it's in electronically, like what we're going to be doing, is the same thing as a file cabinet and having folders in that filing cabinet. Okay, so if you look at a hard drive on your computer, it's the same thing as having a file cabinet. Okay, what is a record? A record is a collection of information or data on a particular subject. So it's, for instance, if you want pictures of somebody's birthday, you'll have a record with all the different pictures of that birthday in it. A file is one of those pictures. So in other words, as we've been going through in the other classes that I've been videotaping, we've been making files. So when we go Start button, All Programs, Accessories, if we open up Notepad, for instance, when we type in here and then we go up to File, Save As, that is a file. You are making a file. A file goes into a record or a folder. A folder is the same thing as a record. Okay? Those of us who are old enough to remember record albums, if you remember, there on one record album there was many songs. Each of those songs is a file. That whole record has many files within it. Those of us who aren't that old, that if you can think of a CD, a compact disc with all your music that was on it. Again, that's one, the CD is one record. On that record there are many different types of files or songs in that respect. So how do we organize them? There's two ways. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to save it. Now, how do we organize it? You can organize things by using what they call Windows Explorer. That is found left mouse button on the Start button, pardon me, left mouse button on All Programs. Go up here and you should find where it says let's see, it is here. Each person has their Windows set up differently, and there's many different ways to get into these files, and that's why I'm having a hard time, because I usually go in a different way. Left mouse button. Okay, welcome back. Now, go Start button, All Programs, and up here, just found it, is Windows Explorer. There it is. As you can see, because there's so many of them, it's very hard sometimes to actually go through and find them. I believe some programs try to put things in alphabetical order, but you can't. So anyway, to find it through here, left mouse click and it'll open up this screen. Okay, now this is the screen. This is the scroll bar. Go up and down, or if you want, you can click one or two ways that way. I'm just going to make it a little bit more full screen. There you go. It's before it's going off the screen. Okay, so you have where you can organize it, where you undo layout. That's just very confusing, I find. What you need to do is usually when the operating system is made up, it has actually made you a section in desktop called Documents, and usually that's where you put any of your documents. But because I've got so much in there, in order to keep things simple for these videos, I've actually just created a folder called with my name. Now there's two ways to do a folder. One, and this is the most simplest way, is go up here and click on New Folder, and a new one will appear. So what it is the blue words, my new folder that I highlighted. Once you type, it'll type over top of the words New Folder. So I'm going to call this Video Trial. Okay? When you get done, you can click on Enter and it will create it. By hitting Enter, it'll say, okay, that's it. Let's say, for instance, though, you're going, oh, I didn't mean to hit Enter. I still have more I want to put in there. You can make sure it's highlighted. See how mine's highlighted in purple? You can hit your F2 key and that will reactivate it. So I go, okay, well actually no, I want to type in something new. So I do either your backspace or your delete key until it's all gone, and then I can type in vids, which, you know, it'll, in that way, hit Enter, and now you've got a directory called vids. You can, and in order to go into these, remember, in order to go into a folder, you take your mouse and your left mouse click twice really quick. I usually tell people to go over top of the little picture or the little icon, only because if you do it on top of the name, it will, that's another way of selecting to actually change that name. So go over top of the little icon and double click twice and you'll go actually into it. And again, to create a new folder, you can create one that way. The second way to create a new folder is to actually put your mouse button into the window, left mouse click, you'll get another menu. That is, remember how so far we've gone over 3 or out of the 4 different ways in these different tutorials on how to come about new menus. Anyway, so you right mouse click with the mouse, left mouse click on new, and that's how you can create a new folder. Left mouse click on folder, and a new folder will appear, and you can go and put in, let's say, your name. Hit Enter, and congratulations, you just made a folder within a folder. Okay? Usually there are some kind of hard and fast rules to doing this stuff. Usually you organize by the file types, so all pictures are usually in one directory, or your lists of Word documents and things are in another. One place for all. In other words, I've told you that I was using one section, which is within Documents. So you double click on Documents and all your information will be in there. So let's say if there's 3 people in your house and you all want a little different, everybody wants a little section, you can create one for each person. You can have one named Mom, one named Dad, one named Peter, one named Paul, and that way everybody should save into those areas. Usually in Documents, or it used to be called My Documents, usually all your documents are saved within that. There are differences. If you have a USB stick or a data stick, you can save them onto there, or if you have, a different area, whereas like a secondary hard drive or a backup hard drive, you can then create files onto there. That's another one, and it's important because the more you use Windows Explorer, this Windows Explorer, then you can get into doing things like backups, which is good if, let's say, for instance, bushfire season around here. You can then copy and paste them onto an external hard drive, and then what you do is, if there's a fire and you have to evacuate, you can just disconnect the external hard drive and run out the door, and all your important information is actually stored on that, instead of taking the central processing unit and all the other components. You can just take your main files and run out the door, and you don't have to worry about all the bulky stuff. Okay, so that's why you put them in that type of area. Use folders within folders, like I've just gone through, will keep your things organized. So if, for instance, in my name, if I have, let's say, a party coming up or a birthday coming up, in class we were using birthdays, you'd have probably the word birthday for the type of event. So I would left mouse click create a new folder called birthdays, enter, double click on birthday to go into it, and then you'd be going up here, new folder, go mum, enter, new folder, dad, enter, and then double click, go into mum. And if you celebrate every year, you might want to put a year in. If you don't celebrate every year, sometimes I know with us here at home, even though we don't celebrate with big parties every year, I still, for the years that we do celebrate big, and we're going to be taking pictures and we have guest lists and everything, I actually have the year. So in this instance, I'm going to put a year, so it's 2012, just for an example. Enter in there, and then I'm going to have one for a venue, because it's a big birthday. I'm going to have maybe lists, which would be your guest list, your food list, any, maybe one for your alcohol. Any kind of lists will go into there. Then you would have, if you're renting a venue, it has agreements, maybe they'll give you lists with food in it, maybe you want to keep that together. You're going to have address list that goes in addresses, so maybe RSVPs. Maybe you want to keep track of all your RSVPs one by one. That'll also create the file that you actually made of. So if you want to invitate your RSVP, invitation is actually in there, so that next time you throw a party, you just have to open that up and change it. So as you can see, all these things, at least then, if you're looking for something, you can go, okay, who's the last one we did? Mum. Okay, and then these are all the lists that we've done. You can just open them and save them to a different year, or maybe into dad for his, 60th or something. So that way you actually can just reuse lists instead of rethinking, and instead of having to redo them. Okay, so following naming conventions. Very helpful names. I don't know how to stress this enough. Helpful names, with as much as what you can without going overboard, will actually help you out in the long run. So with your list, you can have guest list, you can have a gluten-free guest list file in there. You can have alcohol. Maybe you're going to go to Dan Murphy's. You can have a list of Dan Murphy's. You're going to have a list of drinks from, let's say, Kohl's or Safeway, so that way you can have all the, but as long as you name them, Safeway shopping list, Kohl's shopping list, Dan Murphy's shopping list. At least that way you know where it's come from, and what you're going to need from there. That way somebody else, again, if they need to know, they don't have, if you name it list 1, list 2, and list 3, they're not going to know what list they are and why you use them, so they're going to have to be searching through each and every file. That's why it's important. And file as you go. So as you're creating the files, file them away in folders. If you don't know, let's say you have a file that you're going to need that you don't know. Okay, I'm going to have pictures. Oh, I don't have a pictures directory. So go up here, go to new folder, and just type in pictures, hit enter. You've created one. Now if you're in the middle of saving something and you're going, oh, I didn't make that folder, or I don't know if I'm going to have enough of them. Let's say if you're only going to have one list, I'd probably put it, for your RSVPs, I'd probably put it in lists. But you might have things that you only have, let's say, one of. You can create a folder called miscellaneous, or MISC, and in that you can file things, and then when you go through later on, if you have more than, let's say, 3 or 4 types of files, you might want to then create a new folder and move those files into the folder. And you're going to say, how do I do that? How do I actually move files to a folder? So we're going to, up here, these are called breadcrumbs. I'm going to go back, I'm going to click on Joanne, which takes me back to that directory. See how I have all these lists here? See, I want to have guest list. Oh, that should actually be in mum, in the guest list. So I'm going to click, left mouse click on birthdays, left mouse click on mum, so that it toggles back and forth. So left mouse click, that'll actually open up these. Now, okay, I want to move guest list to lists. I'm going to highlight guest list. Then I'm going to, using my mouse, left button, hold it down, and slowly move it over. See how it comes up, move to lists on the screen? That's what you want. And then what you're going to do is let it go, and it will disappear from here and moved into lists. And if I left mouse click on lists, there it is. That's how you move your files around. You can do the same thing for folders. If I wanted, let's say for instance, lists in with mum, or no, sorry, pictures in with birthdays, so that way all the birthday pictures are kept together. You might want to do that. So I want to highlight lists, or highlight pictures, left mouse key, click and drag it out while holding the left button in. See how it says move to birthdays? You let it up and it'll actually move. You've noticed how it's removed it from the right hand side. If you left mouse click on birthdays, you have mum, dad, and pictures in there now. And you go, oh, I didn't want to do that, I want to move it back. Again, highlight it with click, left mouse click on pictures, go back, left mouse click button, hold the pictures in, drag it over underneath 2012, let the button up, and it'll actually put it back. Okay. Also, I would recommend from time to time going in and going through your files. If there's files that you don't think you're going to use them anymore, and you've had them for, I don't know, 2 years, you might want to delete them, or not only delete them, but first back them up onto a different, like onto a USB stick or onto an external hard drive, so that way you still have them, they're just not readily accessible. Then what you can do is go onto your C drive, which is where your documents are, and delete them off there, so that we still have them, but they're not readily accessible. That way it creates more space, because the more pictures and things you have in there, your C drive actually has a limit on it, and that will eventually fill up over time. Okay. Back up your files regularly. Again, if there's a I usually back mine up right before bushfire season, so before it starts getting really hot out, what you might want to do is copy all your files onto in either an external hard drive or onto a USB stick, depending on how many you have. And then what you do is you can go highlight, let's say, the directory, go up here, and you can share with, or you can go up and if you have a file or something, you can copy, and then what you do, what I usually do is right mouse click, copy it, and then what I can do is go into here and go right mouse click, paste, and it'll actually, as you can see, it's actually made a copy. Not onto your C drive, but onto, let's say, a USB. Or so, for instance, if I wanted to cut that because I don't want it there, going, oops, I can move it down, and on here, I've actually have Joe. That's actually an external hard drive. I can actually click on it, left mouse click, and go paste, and it'll actually put it there. And then I can, when the hot weather comes, if I have to evacuate because of a bushfire or something, you can actually grab it and run out the door with it. A lot quicker, a lot simpler, and you can save so much information onto it. Your pictures, scan your pictures in, or your pictures that you take with your cameras, put them into a folder, and then back that folder up onto an external hard drive. Take the hard drive with you, and boom, you've got all your information onto there. Okay. So as you can see, backing up and doing your file management is very, very important. You can find things a lot easier once you know where to look for them. Okay. So I would actually come in here, look at this, and try those things. Remember, up here is what you call your breadcrumbs, and just play with them so that way you can say, oh, okay, and then you can double click on folders, go back into them, and things along that line. The file management is very simple, but it's very important. Again, this is a file. A file goes in a folder, or it's also a record. Can also be termed as a record. So a file goes into your records. Okay. And then when you get done, again, this is a window, just like all the other windows. You can go up to your upper right hand side, left mouse key, and it'll close the document for you.